All right, everybody. Well, welcome back. We got another great guest with us today. I'm joined by Scott Melker, aka the Wolf of All Streets, and the Melker Project.
That's right. Well, in a former life.
So thank you for joining us.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, dude. I've been a big fan, follower for a long time. You encouraged me to become an influencer a lot, and so yeah, we've been tracking you for a long time, and I really am thankful. I think everybody who's watching has probably heard of you as well. So thanks for making the time.
Awesome, man. I appreciate it. I'm glad we ran into each other literally randomly at a bar in Austin last night.
Exactly. So, dude, tell me a little bit about your story. Who are you and how did you become, arguably one of the largest influencers in the crypto space?
I would love to say that I had a great plan and that it was
this was all
a vision
premeditated.
and I meditated on it in the mornings and secreted it. But no, in reality, I think it happened very organically. A lot of luck and good timing, and I think largely just consistency, right? Being there early enough and being relentless about it and sort of never stopping. But the reality is that, I had a music career for 20 years before you kind of alluded to the Melker Project. And so I had built a social following from that, right? And so I came into crypto in late 2016, early 2017 as I was transitioning out of music. My daughter was born. I had no idea what that was going to be like.
Yeah.
And it was sort of this instant aha moment that I needed to not be on the road DJing and traveling all the time. I'd always been a trader, poorly. And I just coincidentally, it was serendipitous that I found crypto at the same time, right? And so if you came into crypto in late 2016, early 2017, you were one of those everyone's a genius in a bull market situations.
That's when I got radicalized.
I literally it was like my DJ friends were like, you buy this Bitcoin thing on the Coinbase, right? The Coinbase, and then you send it to the Bittrex.
Yeah.
And everything's denominated in Bitcoin, so it'll be really confusing. But just buy Ripples, right?
Yeah.
Plural, Ripples. You put an S on everything back then.
Guys.
Ripples, Ethereums. Yeah. And so I did, and luckily it was literally like $3,000, and I woke up a week later and it was like 30.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm taking out 20, and that's probably it. And I've ridden the other 10 till now.
That's
right?
incredible.
And by luck.
Yeah.
By luck,
Sure.
right? And so, but what was interesting is, so I had, like 40,000 Twitter followers for music. And I just alienated them completely. I started posting these terrible charts at the time of magic internet money, and they were like, "What's wrong with you?" And I went down to 20,000.
Yeah.
But I had a blue check, which was complete luck, right? That I
And
had it
back
from
in
music.
those days, that's
I had a
really
blue
rare.
check from 2010.
Wow. Oh my God. I didn't even know they had blue checks
so I
back
joined
then.
11, 10, something. But I joined Twitter in 2009.
Wow.
And it was my main platform for music.
Totally.
That's just, I loved Twitter. So I think the blue check gave me an unfair advantage, maybe credibility that people didn't know that I had gotten it from music, and so they assumed I was a financial expert of some sort. When the reality is I just joined crypto Twitter following all the big accounts there to learn about crypto myself, right? And so I think to a large degree I was just emulating what I'd learned from them. And so there was a point where I said, Twitter is just not enough for me. There was limited characters back then.
Yeah,
right?
240 or something.
And so I was like, I'm going to write a free newsletter. And so I started
The Wolf Den.
Right, which I was twice a week. So I started doing that twice a week. And then I realized that, wow, this became a job. And I actually, for a while, charged $15 for the newsletter. I had the free one, but you could get it more often.
Yeah.
But then I just never felt comfortable sort of with monetizing my audience, and I went back to free. But I said, that's not enough. I want to do it 5 days a week.
Wow.
So I started doing it 5 days a week.
You're an
Every
animal.
morning. I wake up 4 o'clock in the morning, write a newsletter.
Wow.
But that keeps me ready for everything the rest of the day, right?
Totally.
I know exactly what's happening in the market by 7, 8 o'clock a.m. when everyone else wakes up. But then I had a company called Blockworks come to me and say, you should start a podcast. Can you curse on this show?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I said, what the fuck's a podcast? I literally, my response was, what the fuck is a podcast? I had no idea. Right?
Yeah, never
It was
heard
like
of it.
2019, I'm a boomer. And so I started, we started a podcast. It was horrible. I wrote down all these questions, and no matter what the guest was talking
You were
about,
like, you
I
weren't
went back
listening.
to my I went
Yeah.
back to my script and my predetermined jokes. And so then actually I had Peter McCormick on the podcast at one point from What Bitcoin Did, and he said, the moment that I really cracked the code, I think, is the moment that I threw away all my notes and I didn't really prep much. I know these people. I just want to have a conversation. It resonated with me, so I just did that.
Yeah.
And that's failed me many times, to be quite frank, because if a guest is a bit dry or needs more encouragement, sometimes you just, on the spot, you run out of things to say. But largely, I think it's that's what has taken things to another level, because I think people want to watch you have an organic conversation among friends rather
Yeah.
than like a question and answer interview for a job, which
Yeah.
is how I think a lot of podcasts sort of come out. But then that wasn't enough, so I started my YouTube,
Yeah.
which was way later. So like I'm not the biggest YouTuber. Most of my audience is still on Spotify and Apple and
sure.
Twitter. And then I started daily streaming. And now, honestly, I'm thinking the push for me is going to be more towards Twitter Spaces.
Okay. Yeah.
Because it's going back to, I think, my core audience, where they're at. And just because, like I said, I think I enjoy or excel, I don't know, it's what I've heard, with the kind of group conversations,
Totally.
like moderating. And that's the story, and it was probably much longer than you wanted.
No, I want more.
But honestly, none of it was like, I have this plan to become, I don't even like the term influencer. I'm sure you hate it as well.
Yeah, we hate it.
But I don't have this plan to become one of the biggest people in this space.
Right.
I was just here to learn, and because I became so utterly obsessed with it, I consumed the content all day, and then I thought, well, I can help more people come
Yeah.
into this space, because the 12 of us and our cousins are not enough for mainstream adoption, and that's,
Yeah.
by the way, who's back here now. It's like 14 of us and
Yeah.
our cousins who hate us. And so to that end. And so there were times when it was actually kind of like a wildly profitable business in the bull runs to be doing it. But as I tell the story often, at this point, I joke that I'm like a non-for-profit because I continue creating more content with my staff, but I'm very hesitant about who I'll allow to sponsor or what sponsorships I'll do.
Absolutely.
So for many months, I'll go now for long stretches where it's just me paying my people, and we're putting it out and we're cranking it, and there's literally no business model behind it at all.
Wow.
So it's
Well, that could change. That could change.
it will change.
Yeah.
That's intentional. It's
Yeah. You're building the trust, the
the
brand
trust,
loyalty.
the audience, the
first hit's
community
free.
is much, that's right. But it's much more important than the immediate check. There will be another bull market, and all of that will flood back in, and then I think we'll be able to have the options to be more discerning about sort of how we monetize. I think what you guys do is actually very interesting because it's sort of your own products,
Yeah.
and I think I know Pomp is kind of moving in that direction, and I think that's sort of the wave of the future, and you guys are largely ahead of that.
I appreciate
so
that.
I think that's really interesting. So I would say that I've been very good at the growth model, but the business model side of it is I'm still iterating.
Yeah. When I think of you, and we're here at crypto events and stuff, and you're a celebrity in our small niche of crypto, right? But I'm sure you get lots of people who approach you and say, hey, Scott, I know you've got big reach. Let me give you a Bitcoin. Let me give you some money to promote us. How do you typically respond or think about those things?
I don't even respond.
Yeah.
It's literally an outright no, and we don't respond to the emails. The emails don't make it to me anymore.
Yeah.
I've put a system in place where I don't even want to be bothered by it. Yeah, you guys probably know, but
Yes.
you'd be shocked. I can say in the bull market now, like I said, I don't see the emails, and I tell my team not to even tell me because it's a
waste
a
of time.
waste of our time. But it would be 10 a day.
That's crazy, man.
Between my DMs, which I eventually closed as
Yeah.
a result of that, and emails through the website and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, 10 a day.
Yeah.
NFT projects. I'm like, do you watch my content? I'm not
Yeah.
even talking about this stuff, I'll tell you, at the beginning, when I had 20,000, 30,000, 40,000 sponsors, I thought that was super exciting.
Followers.
Yeah, so what did I say?
Sponsors.
Sorry. Oh, yeah, no, I used to have 20,000 sponsors. But I don't take money. When I had that many followers and stuff, I didn't really do it then, but I think that at that level, people can do that in a more genuine manner.
Totally.
You get to a certain threshold, I think. For me, I said Twitter became super annoying and unfun at 100,000. I think that's kind of the threshold of followers where it becomes a job instead of
Damn.
Because
People expect stuff of you.
But I think that people assume that anything you post is for financial benefit
Right.
at a certain point. So it used to be, the reason people engaged with me, other than sort of what we discussed before, was I was a trader.
Right.
And I was trading all like crazy
Posting your
and sharing charts
calls,
and my
yeah.
calls. Most of it I wasn't even trading, whatever. And then literally people just think that you're pumping and dumping things and you don't even own it.
Right.
Yeah,
you're just-
so
this is just
And I
analysis.
think it's just that there's a certain percentage of everyone's audience that are trolls.
Yes.
And are angry. And you get to a certain threshold where you start to notice them.
Totally.
If you have 10,000 and 100 of your followers are trolls, it doesn't matter.
I think the majority of people are trolls.
Right, I
Or-
agree.
Yeah.
And so then you start getting blamed for everybody's losses in the bear
Yeah.
market and all that. So the bottom line is, as you grow, you learn, you scale out of even considering those things to where it becomes just an outright zero and a no. Like I said, I won't even take very legitimate sponsorship right now, depending on what it is.
Well, bro, I think
But
about
I'm
all the
certainly
people.
not like I do not get paid in tokens to market things. But listen, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
Here's,
As long as you disclose it.
If you tell people I was paid, I believe, especially if you believe in it,
Right.
right? Like people, that's what
why we're here.
influencer
Yeah.
marketing is. Like people don't get mad at Kim Kardashian for a hair product or something. The problem is that these are financial products, and if people lose their money on them, it's a real problem.
Right.
Like if your hair dye doesn't come out the way you want, it's different. So
Yeah.
it's not exactly like a perfect example. But so you just stop doing it,
Yeah.
right? And it's really annoying because now I feel like at this level, like there's some of this stuff I'm super passionate about and like it, and I won't touch it. I won't.
Yeah.
In fact, people will say, "Do you want to invest?" Right? And there's a lot of things I invest in, and the first thing I'll tell them is, as an investor, you are the last person on earth I'm going to talk about publicly.
Yeah. Sure.
Because now I literally can't talk about you.
Right.
Right? And so I learned that over the years because I used to talk about the things I invested in, and I've now ridden them down 99%, and
Yep.
people, and so it's a very sort of tenuous situation to be in. Long story short is just to say, you just don't do it at all.
Yeah. And
But now I like post Bitcoin charts, and I'm super vanilla and boring, and
I would
I'm not
say
posting Pepe charts or Gensler or whatever is happening now.
But if you think about like you said, like you might even see people who you deem super legit and be like, okay, well we could take sponsorship dollars from them. But think about FTX, right? Like everybody pegged them as the most buttoned up, and Kobe and Ledger had their Up Only podcast. It was sponsored by FTX, and then that blew up. And then they started getting so much heat. And they're like, look, we just so I guess the point is you don't even know who's
you know who
legit.
my first ever sponsor was?
BlockFi?
Voyager.
I was like, I knew it was one of those
Yeah, so
lenders.
and so I met them at World CryptoCon in 2019. They launched that month. I was one of probably their first 100 customers. They did not have a yield product. It was strictly an exchange,
Yeah.
a broker. And I traded there for years. And I talked about them all the time for free
Totally.
because it's where I traded.
Yeah.
Everybody loved it. And I said, I'm starting a podcast. I don't really know what that means. You guys give me $5,000 so that I can pay this company to produce it. And they were like, we will totally support you at
Yeah.
the beginning. And they were my first sponsor for a couple months. And I've never heard the end of it.
Dude.
Forever.
Yeah.
And it was like literally a few $1,000 here and there, and I was using it forever, and I lost millions, right? Literally millions
Yeah.
because I believed in them and I used it and I trusted the CEO and I thought he was my friend.
Steve Ehrlich.
And so imagine that you're personally suffering massively, but the worst part is the guilt you feel about other people who may have done it.
Totally.
So what do you do after that? Like it's a strange form of PTSD, I guess.
Totally.
And listen, I'm not saying I don't take any sponsors or that I wouldn't, but I dodged FTX.
Yeah.
But the thing about FTX though is they got a lot of crap, but they also had Tom Brady and the American Airlines Arena to take crap with them. So
Exactly.
It's fine,
Yeah.
Right? I guess I had Mark Cuban and Marshall Falk and whoever, Hardaway, one of the Hardaways.
Hardaway,
I think
yeah.
it was Anthony Hardaway or something. But yeah, like all these guys. That's not who it was. I just disparaged him. But yeah. And so it's really hard. But it doesn't the business side is very sort of secondary to me, fleeting.
Yeah.
I know it comes in waves and I believe in it, but I would never stop creating the content because that's what brought me here and that's what I believe in.
What you've interviewed a lot of people, and I'm curious, who are your favorite kinds of people? I love interviewing hedge fund managers because I just love getting in their mind, how they think about markets. Who is your ideal person to interview, and do you even have a favorite person that you've interviewed?
Saylor's the easiest.
Michael Saylor.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's killer.
Because you say one thing and then you wait 3 hours.
Yeah.
And that makes your life really easy.
Yeah.
And he says amazing things, and
He's so
and it
quotable.
makes you look smart, and people share all the things he said on your show.
Yeah.
You're a genius. Balaji is incredible.
Oh my God, that guy's amazing.
Same.
Yeah.
Right? But Balaji tests you. So Saylor,
He'll put it back on you.
Yeah. Where Saylor is Saylor, every time I interview Saylor, he calls me before and he says, Scott, what are we going to talk about? We should do this and that. It was a Twitter Spaces most recently. He said, who else is going to be on the Spaces? There's 10 minutes before I said, this person. He said, get rid of him.
Not showing up.
So it's going to be us. We'll talk. And they can come later.
Yeah.
and so he has his talking points. But Balaji is like, right, Scott? What do you like? He's
Yeah,
like,
he wants-
have you listened to everything I thought, and are you following me?
Right.
So, but the way his mind works, I think, is unparalleled.
Yeah.
Right. About everything. So he can go way beyond crypto. Sailor can
yeah.
actually too, but.
Yeah,
Literally,
Bal-
last time I had Sailor on Spaces, I asked him a question about the crypto contagion, and we had just spoken, and he was like, "Yeah, we'll have a talk, you and me," And he went through a 23 number bullet point reasons for the crisis of confidence in crypto and
Oh
in
my
banking.
God.
Like number one, and literally listed them, and I was
Yeah.
like, "Come on, man! Like, you didn't just come up with those 23." And be like, hey, but he's ready,
Yeah.
And so. Balaji, I think, is just incredible because you can ask him about anything, and he will say
so
he will say
worldly.
something that will blow your mind that you didn't think of. So that's great. I really like digging in with, people who found and create layer ones, layer twos, sort of the real builders who. Some of them are a bit boring because they're just
all
devs,
up here,
right?
yeah.
But the ones who can really articulate the importance of what they're building and why they're building it and why it's different, I think is important because I think it's very hard to differentiate any of them.
Yeah, it is.
We have 17 layer ones built for DeFi. Okay,
no
great.
fees
Right,
and
that's
fast throughput and
That's
all
right.
that stuff.
That's
It's like-
right. And then I think just it's always interesting to get perspectives from people who have been around like from the beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The
And so,
OGs.
yeah, I think it's really always powerful. But to be honest, man, I think I can't even count. I mean, the podcast, I don't even know what number because we stopped numbering them. It's got to be 400 or 500.
Yeah.
I'm interviewing 8 or 9 people a day a week on YouTube.
Yeah. It's a lot.
Spaces can be 15 people. I've probably recorded 1,000 to 1,500 interviews at this point. They're all great. I
Yeah.
just love sitting down and talking to people. It's
the best job in the world,
It's the
learning.
best job in the world, but not because the reasons maybe people think. You were just going to say it though. It's learning.
Learning.
For me, it's the best job in the world. It has nothing to do with money or any of it because I literally am trying to learn and I love this stuff. And like, who gets to go to college with the best professors in the world?
That's what I say.
One-on-one and ask them questions for an hour, and they have to sit there and answer.
And they have to. Yeah.
And for some reason, they actually will come do it because everybody loves to hear themselves speak.
Exactly,
Right. So
yeah.
for whatever reason, they've deemed me appropriate to ask them questions. It's the
You're-
DJ, and so for me, it's like I'm humbled and flattered every day that they're willing to do it, and so
Yeah.
I wake up super excited.
Yeah.
Every day.
Yeah, there's so many smart people in this space, and kind of going back to what you were saying about Balaji, he was the first person outside of Pizza Mind, the first person who kind of started tweeting about COVID-19. This was like January of 2020, right? And so I was following him. I'm like, wait, hold on. This is the CTO of Coinbase, super smart dude, and now he's starting to, he like called it like 3 or 4 months way ahead of
Dude,
time.
I've seen the retweets of late. People have really
Yeah,
captured
because
what he said,
now
and he
he has-
listed every single part of the government response.
Exactly.
that would come.
And now he put out the $1 million Bitcoin price target by the end of the year, all that stuff, which is like
90 days.
Or yeah, 90 days. Sorry, 90 days. And I think it's more of a provocative, like, trying to, get people thinking about the unrealized losses on all these banks' balance sheets and that's the elephant in the room.
I asked him that question, and I don't think he's ever said this anywhere else. He said, I burned $1 million to tell people that they were printing trillions.
Bingo.
He literally admitted outright, he was like, this is $1 million marketing campaign out of my pocket against the Fed.
Yeah. Yeah, and it makes sense. He got a lot of interest in it, and I think
he's got a lot of money.
that goes without saying. But like I love it because he puts his money where his mouth is, and that's what I respect. And guys like you who puts your money where your mouth is, and you spend in order to grow this ecosystem and make people aware, right? And with Crypto 101, all the stuff that we do is like we're just trying to educate people and get people to understand like not only the basics of the history of money and why we need Bitcoin, but like how to use your ledger, right? How to trade on MetaMask. Like
We take for granted that
we
people, it's so complicated.
It's so
We're
complicated.
so over their heads.
And these are the barriers to entry. And so I think things will get easier over time as more companies kind of develop, and thinking user first and customer first. But we're just not there yet.
Can I tell you a cool story?
I would love to hear a cool
So,
story.
guys, when I graduated college at the University of Pennsylvania, circuitous route, I was DJing, but I was fancying myself an entrepreneur at the time. I had started an internet company called Philly Tonight. But then I wanted to start a physical print magazine. It was 2001 in Philadelphia, and the magazine was called 101.
Wow. There's so many.
yeah.
And also, he was saying he was wearing this shirt yesterday, so there's a lot of synchronicity.
And I recorded in that shirt at Consensus last year.
There's a lot of synchronicity.
So it was called 101 Magazine, and it was like a print rag about nightlife and culture in
cool.
Philadelphia. And I eventually sold it, and I moved to New York to work for a company called Frank. But so my corporate entity remained 101.
Wow.
And then my wife owns a internet marketing company, and because we already had the corporate entity, it's called 101 Management.
Wow.
So it's also, we've maintained the 101 name for now 23 years.
I hope
as a
we're not
corporate
copyright
entity.
infringing
No,
on
I
anything.
I think I was copyright infringing on every university in the planet who had a 101 class. But yeah, so it's the name, like, and I know why you used it, obviously, and it resonates. But I think you just touched on the single most important point. And it's hard, I think, in our position, especially when you have a guest. They just talk over everyone's head, and they're just too smart.
Yeah.
Right, and so you find that you're having these conversations about ZK, snarks, and optimistic.
Yeah, I asked everybody
POS and POW.
define that.
but our industry has failed. If a year from now we're talking about those things,
Yes.
they have to be the underlying tech that people use that they don't know exists while they're just
Amen.
sending a digital picture to someone.
Yeah.
Right? Like, and even if we're still using the term NFT, we're
Right.
failing.
Right.
Well, I won't say we're failing. I'm saying it means we're still really early.
Yeah, I think about like when you log into Netflix and you stream all this shit, right? You don't think about the WebSockets or the API calls or
TCP,
server
IP, and
CDNs, all that stuff. No, you just want to watch the TV, right? And with crypto, it's like you just want to hold your money, right? That's pretty much it, and be able to have access to it anywhere in the world at any time. Be able to send it anywhere, right? That's like what you want. You don't care if it's on Ethereum or if you're using certain wallets and stuff. But for some reason, crypto is perverse in that way because it's so technological focused that everybody is so obsessed with that infrastructure. And maybe it's just a function of being an early industry, like, and a bunch of nerds.
My mom watches every single show that I do.
My mom does the same thing,
right?
dude.
And went to every game I had in my life and every show like she could, and she's just super
biggest
supportive
fan.
mom. But every single time she's like, Scott, I listen, but I have no idea what you're talking about. And it's like.
We're doing this for moms all over the world, okay?
So I think the most important thing the crypto industry can do, and I think that's what people are focusing on, is just abstracting away all of the complexity that I think naturally comes with it, seed phrases.
Oh my God,
Yeah, well, I want to be my own bank until I fall on my head, right?
Yeah.
Or until I spill a glass of water on the
your
piece of
seed
paper that I
phrase.
left on my desk because of it's just, you hear these horror stories. And
I think it's also all these buzzwords and this confusion is kind of sometimes, in my opinion, a function of all this fundraising and all these new coins that they're all competing with each other, and they have to come up with these sexy terms and these really things that make them almost feel smarter, a little inside baseball, so that they could really raise money.
Yeah.
And I think that's why people started calling them shit coins and all that kind of stuff, because they have shitty marketing messages in a lot of the times. But do you feel like there is a world where all of these shit coins kind of go away and it's just Bitcoin?
No. I don't think it's just Bitcoin, but I think that 99% of the shit coins go away. So I think we can have both of those things.
Yep.
I've been very outright about my opinion on Bitcoin versus everything else, and that's how I view it.
And
Bitcoin
what is that?
first,
Yeah, Bitcoin
Bitcoin
first.
digital, gold, store of value, hard money. Choose your narrative.
Yep.
Everything else is a
Derivative of it.
no, I would say everything else is a speculative venture capital investment in technology. That's not a bad thing. I love speculative venture capital
But call a
investments
spade
in
a spade.
technology. But I hate when Bitcoiners feel they have to defend themselves against Ethereum or anything else, because I view them as completely separate asset classes. I don't think one's attacking the other.
Yeah.
And so I think there's Bitcoin and everything else. So I think 99% of the everything else goes away. You talk about the evolution, how you grow up and you learn in this industry. I used to believe in so much of this vaporware, and I still get shit about it because people are like, "You promoted this; it's down 99%." Yeah, well, I'm holding it; it's down 99%. Like,
that was 3 years ago I talked about it.
anything that anyone's listen. If we talk about things, eventually people are going to lose money on some of them.
Right. That's
not because
nature.
of us. They'll say it's because of us, but. Anything I talked about that people lost money on generally, unless it was just like a trade where I said there's analysis, like if it was an investment, I lost money.
Yeah.
Like Voyager,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
So I came to learn through, and that's what people don't realize. Like, you start, as I said, I was on Twitter trying to learn from people. I believed the accounts that
Totally.
people shared things with me. This is awesome. This project's so cool. I'm buying it. I start talking about it. I lost my money on it, right? So I've come to realize through a cycle that 99% of the shit is vaporware.
Yeah.
That just is. And that's fine, because people love to comment on how Bitcoin's a bubble or crypto's a bubble and it's like the internet bubble of the 90s and it's all going to zero. That's a favorable comparison. They're trying to insult us, but they don't realize that Amazon and Google and Facebook and all the biggest tech companies in the world that literally disrupted everything were the few that succeeded and rose from the ashes of the internet bubble. They love to invoke the pets.com or the net taxi or all these things that were like so highly valuated and went to zero. But every one of these failures, and when I say vaporware, that doesn't mean scam. It doesn't mean malintent. It just means it's going nowhere and we don't need it. It's like it's a problem in search of a solution, right? But every time one of these entrepreneurs rushes into this space and they iterate and they create something, they're advancing the ball for the ones that succeed.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like
building on the shoulders of giants.
Right, but you can't be successful without failing. So better that they fail for you.
Yeah.
Right? And so I really don't think there's plenty of bad actors, plenty of outright scams, like plenty of people who are just pumping and dumping things. But I think 99% of them fail, but were at least honest in their attempt to do something real. And I think that the things that we see in the next cycle are inevitably being built during this winter or bear market, whatever you call it, and have learned from those mistakes. I've learned from it.
Yeah.
I've invested in like 100 things in past cycles that 90 of them were complete and utter crap in the end that I thought were awesome.
Totally.
Right?
Yeah. That's just the cycle
We're
of
gonna
life.
bring music to the blockchain. I'm in. Right. Yeah.
So
Oops.
I got two follow-up questions there, and just on the same subject. Like, how do you? And again, not saying that you're perfect or not saying that you're the best financial advisor in the world.
For saying I'm perfect.
But how do you decipher? Like, when you look at Project A versus Project B, they do the same thing or whatever. Are you looking at the team? Are you looking at like tokenomics, or what's your kind of strategy?
So I didn't understand tokenomics well enough, I think, in previous cycles. So that's become a huge part of it. I think team is key.
Team's everything.
So at this point, and this is a very unpopular opinion, I'm very unlikely to invest or even talk to anyone that's anonymous.
Me too. Same thing.
Just like, I get it.
Yeah.
Right? I get it.
That's right for them. I don't blame them.
But in 2023, no, you know, whatever.
Totally.
So I want to know who you are. I want to know what you've done. I want you to blow my mind with your pitch or your idea. I don't even, and also, honestly, at this point, I have kind of a few trusted people that generally vet things or filter to me. So I don't even hear about it unless it has a fighting chance of being somewhat legitimate, I think. So that's the answer. I think tokenomics are huge. Like, I invested, I think, in a lot of ideas that I thought were great and didn't realize that, like, necessarily how large the supply was,
or how they were distributing
or that they were
it.
going to invest 50% of it up front and everyone was going to dump on my head, and I sold my like 5% and people think I dumped it. I'm holding 95% of it like on a hardware wallet to die for the rest of time. And so I think it's a learning process. Everyone just assumes that like you've been doing this for 30 years.
Yeah.
It hasn't even existed that long.
Exactly.
Right? So if you were here in 2014 and you saw Mt. Gox fail, you learned a lot of lessons about exchanges.
Totally.
Right? And no matter how many, it's like your parents, no matter how many times they tell you a lesson until you experience it and make the mistake yourself, it's not going to resonate with you.
I was with somebody who got hacked, crypto hacked. He was, getting SIM swapped and all that stuff, and
I got SIM swapped.
It was a horrible.
Twice.
Oh God, yeah, it's horrible, right? I mean, and to see that whole thing go down is like, it's traumatizing in a sense. Even though, like, thank God it wasn't my money that I lost, but watching somebody go through that made me realize how important key security is, right? Maintaining private keys on paper, offline, and not clicking sketchy links. It just makes you hyper aware. And then when FTX collapsed, able to dodge that bullet, your life flashes before your eyes, right? And
and I
it's
think
crazy.
what they don't realize is that if you experience all of that, but also have a public doxed presence in the space, all of the sort of ancillary stressors that come with that.
Totally.
It doesn't happen as much. I'm not even going to say it.
Yeah.
Jinx.
Yeah.
But, I used to have people try to hack me like once a week.
Yeah.
So I had to have security experts that I don't have access largely to any of my crypto.
Wow.
Right. too much of a security risk.
Totally.
Can't have it on my phone. Don't, has to be geographically dispersed in multi-sigs. But, I've been SIM swapped twice.
Wow.
Now I have a company called Afani that I literally have to use.
Yeah, we know those guys.
Okay, so Hasib, I think I was one of his first investors and
Wow.
one of his first 50 customers.
Yeah, Afani's dope.
Obviously, he watches my SIM for me, and so I don't worry about SIM swapping anymore. I've been hacked multiple times, extorted.
Jesus.
Had people send me pictures of my children that
good
they
God.
shouldn't have. Been chased physically.
That's fucking nuts,
yeah,
dude.
It's nuts.
People are crazy.
Because I posted a chart once or twice that was wrong. You know what I mean?
God.
Or just because it's
Yeah.
it's an easy target.
Yeah.
When I got SIM swapped the second time, I was supposed to be fully protected by T-Mobile's highest level of whatever, and it was there was literally some. I think his name was Bobo or something, some hacking group, some Mr. Robot type thing, in Holland, and the guy was literally bragging about how he had SIM swapped me.
Holy fuck.
Yeah, publicly, he was an anonymous something.
That's crazy, dude.
But they never got anything from me.
Thank God. Yeah, you dodged another bullet.
Well, that's the thing. Is
You're
so
Neo in the
those very
Matrix.
so the things you learn through those processes is just I have no 2FA on my phone. That's on a separate device in a safe in a location that's not near me. So if I have to, someone's yeah, you're gonna invest in something, send us some money. I'm like, give me 2 weeks.
Yeah, I got to get there.
let me get on a few flights or
Yeah,
but no, I have to be sort of ridiculous about it.
Yeah.
And it sucks, but I wouldn't change it because the only way that I can be who I am, I wouldn't be getting these interviews if I was a anonymous farm animal.
Of course not.
I don't
Yeah.
begrudge the people who are for the reasons they are, but I can't be me and do what I do without being, transparent and out there.
Totally.
So it's challenging.
Challenging for sure. Well, when you kind of look at the overall crypto industry, what sectors do you like to focus on? I know you mentioned you threw some shade at NFTs, so I take it you don't do NFTs.
I think I throw shade at parts of the NFT, but that's only because I learned go through
The hard
similar
way.
altcoin cycles
Yeah.
of what the NFT market was. If
Totally.
you went through DeFi Summer, you know exactly what the NFT Summer a year later was.
Exactly.
Right? And so I think Bored Apes are awesome because they built a community. I don't own one. Whatever. I'm not paying $100,000 for that, but it's cool. Right? But I just think that it's very hard unless you're 24/7, 365 to discern what's legitimate and what's kind of just going to go to zero.
Yeah.
I can't even do it, and I do this
For a living.
for a
Yeah.
living. So I just I can't talk about it and think that somebody is going to. I know they're not going to do their own research
Yeah.
or be deep enough down the rabbit hole to do it. But I think that the boring applications of NFTs are way more exciting than the cartoon apes.
Yeah.
If you could transfer your car title or your mortgage or a house,
Totally.
the tokenizing assets and eliminating the trust and the third party in a trustless transaction, Bitcoin,
Yeah.
right? That's the exciting part of NFTs for me. So I think, people always used to ask me it was top of the last cycle, but I would go on Fox News or Yahoo or whatever.
Yeah, I remember seeing you up there.
And then they'd be like, yeah, so what do you say to investors? I say, I don't. But if I had to,
Yeah.
I always kind of at that point was just invest in the infrastructure.
Mm-hmm.
I can't tell you if it's going to be Ethereum or Solana or one of them
Cosmos,
that's
yeah.
going to win NFTs or Metaverse or DeFi or if any of those things are going to win in general. But if you own a small piece of that, at least if you won't find the thing that did 100x, but you'll get the 2x on the infrastructure it was built on,
Yeah.
and that's fine.
Yeah.
I come from a world where I was in stocks and it was if I made 10% a year, it was murdering me.
Yeah.
Now it's if you don't make 10% in a minute, you're pissed off.
Yeah.
And so I think if you're new to the space and you're coming in, you start at Bitcoin, you buy some Ethereum once you're done with Bitcoin,
Totally.
and then you find one or two, maybe three other things that compel you, and you get really deep in the weeds and understand it, and you go there, and you don't chase the unicorns.
Yeah.
And so for me, I'm really, like I said, you asked who do I like to talk to. I like to talk to the people building the infrastructure, building the protocols, because I think that's where you have the best odds of really capturing value.
I love it. Couldn't have said it better. And Scott, I appreciate your time.
thank you, man.
Thank you for coming. And man, well, let's do it again sometime soon.
You got to come on my channel.
I would love to, man.
Let's do it.
That'd be great.
Well, literally welcome anytime. I would love to now ask you all the same
Yeah,
questions.
send it back.
Send
All
me
right.
the transcript.
Yeah, everybody who's watching at home, I hope you guys enjoyed. Follow Scott on Twitter. What's your Twitter?
At Scott Melker, SCOTTMELKER. Yep.
All right. Well, everybody, take care, and we'll be back with some more guests later on.